continuous. Like the radio's fine. It was,
Oh, okay, yeah, we're still,
the
yeah, we're still,
usual, the usual, right? So I'm back on. Unfortunately,
absolutely, yeah.
we may have lost Cam, and I think Daniel was in the chat room there as well. But yeah, I can't control the
Okay,
platforms that I don't own, right? So, but yes, we are still on. Please continue.
okay, okay, sure, sure. Oh, pardon me, guys. Yeah, so where America is concerned, yeah, whoever gets in there is, I think, I haven't heard his speech yet. The Republican National Convention began, I believe, today. He's chosen as vice president. He's going to be the nominee. Nothing's going to stop that. And if they don't manage to steal this one, yeah, he'll be the president. And where he goes from there, it's hard to say because you know, 2020, of course, there was riots all over America, and then the pandemic, right? There was wildfires, just chaos. I likened it to Ted Offensive 2.0. It's just it was a political electoral cycle. There was a guy that the entire establishment, plus the media, plus finance, plus most Western governments wanted this guy gone, and were prepared to play along and make
Yeah.
everyone else play along too. Just politics, politics on steroids, man. It's not. You can't even call it a conspiracy because it's not like anyone was hiding anything.
hmm
They just hated this dude and they despised the people that supported him, and wanted them driven from power permanently by any means. They threw out the rule books. They broke all kinds of regulations. This full court press with media and with the legal system, including a lot of things that frankly weren't legal. They don't care. They just want to win. They don't care. They don't care how many rules, conventions, traditions, what have you, get shredded in the process, which is really, really stupid. Because how does a nation subsist without those things? They don't care. They just, no, we want power. The plane is on fire, and they've locked themselves in the cockpit and set the autopilot.
Absolute
Like
power corrupts
it's insane.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. It's completely deranged, and they need to tone it down because the alternative, frankly, is unthinkable.
hmm
Like what happens to the world if America fractures, like really fractures? Because it could. It's pretty brittle. It's a big, powerful place, but it's like an eggshell right now. And financially, I mean, the debt has gone parabolic. We're at the end of a currency cycle too. We've got all kinds of cycles, coming around this year. I don't know what it will look like going into next year. I just can't. I don't know. I don't. I mean, it was a theory of Mike's. There wouldn't even be an election this year. They'd make things bad enough they'd have to cancel it. I don't see that because America had elections even during the Civil War.
hmm
That's not negotiable. Something will happen, and they'll make it happen. But yeah, no, terror bombings, all kinds of stuff. I don't see how we avoid it because the people in charge, especially the Biden family, the trail of corruption behind them is astonishing. And and now that this guy's had his part of his ear clipped off,
hmm
he's if he gets sworn in as president, he's got a list.
He does, and they're going to jail. So
yeah,
that's the
well,
threat.
at best they're going to
best,
jail. Yeah,
right?
this is treason.
Yeah.
This is treason. This is out and out treason.
Maybe
So
the death penalty.
they came at the king. Yeah, they shot at the king and they missed. So yeah. Well, you know what? That couldn't be off the table. I don't think it could be off the table. These people were trying to get him, this is treason, death penalty and whatever for being a Russian agent or whatever 4 or 5 years. They're just pushing this stuff and pushing it and pushing it. And I mean, there's half the population that just rolls their eyes and goes, "Oh my God, here they go again," and then the other half is, "Yeah, he's a Nazi. Oh my God, we got to get rid of him." Like it's just lunatics.
Hmm.
Like where's the common ground there anymore? Like there just isn't any. It's not even left versus right anymore. It's nationalists versus globalists.
Mm-hmm. Well, welcome back, Cam, in the chat room. So thank you for joining our new live stream. Oop. And here we go. This is the show playing parts. Supreme was just calling in right now. 09889855, 09889855 if you want to call in. This is kind of the segment of the show where we kick back, relax, and chill out, really. So 09889855 if you don't want to hear me stumbling. But yeah, I mean, while we try and get our guests back, let's talk about the history of attempts on presidential candidates in America. The last one, so there's Trump in 2024, 1981. President Ronald Reagan was the most recent attempt on a presidential candidate, and before that was President Gerald Ford in 1975. And poor old Trump is now. I'm getting calls left, right, and center, guys. Sorry. 09889855. That's 09889855. Hello there, Matthew.
Hello.
Oh, there we go. Ooh, nice and boomy voice. How's Australia going?
Cold and wet at the moment.
Cold and wet. Lovely. Just how I like a good beer. Anyway, welcome to the show. We just had Supreme on, but it got cut out. So, Supreme, if you're listening, it wasn't me. But Matthew, we're just talking a little bit about this whole debacle with the attempted assassination of Trump. What are your thoughts from the perspective of an Australian?
Well, obviously, like the hot tour girl, all the social media has just gone crazy with different angles from what people have seen and then footage. So I'm kind of sitting back, just evaluating it without sort of pushing my opinion on everyone. So it just seems a little bit weird what happened.
Mm.
Because there's so many other events that have happened that should have been revealed before all this happened.
Mm-hmm.
They likely, if anyone goes and searches for the January 6th so-called insurrection, there's so much footage and people looking at what actually happened to form the opinion that that was all a setup. None of it was true. And it was just a big PR stunt or whatever they had going on. So why hasn't Trump come forward and said anything opposing January 6th?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be so.
Mm-hmm. Supreme's in the chat right now, so feel free to keep the chat rolling as well. It might prompt us on what to talk about too. Cam Brown is in the channel as well, saying that he promises he's not a globalist, nor are we, I think. Supreme saying, Matthew, there's a voice I haven't heard in a while. So there we go. Great to have you on the show.
Yes.
To our beautiful jazz club of 18 unique listeners on the radio show. And it's hard to really broadcast on YouTube because they keep kicking us out, deleting the videos as well. They just disappear. So, but anyways, we're on Kiwiradio.nz as well as a radio stream if it ever cuts out there. But yeah, it is good to hear your voice there, man. I was wondering how you were doing. How's the golf courses out there at the moment? You doing well with that?
Yes, I have gotten back into golf of late. I was just waiting for a membership to finalise.
Nice.
So that's been kept busy lately.
It's
A lot
important.
of
It's
mental
important to remember that quality of life comes down to two things, people. And I say this time and time again, and it's pleasure and purpose. So hitting the iron there in the green, that's both really pleasure and purpose. Uh, Daniel is also back on the chat room. So, boys, thanks so much for joining us in our little round table of a couple of guys, couple of gentlemen sipping a bit of wine or rum, or whatever your toxin of choice is. Mine happens to be H2O. So there we go. But Matthew, yeah, I feel like, I don't know. As soon as I saw it, I was never kind of a believer of sort of like putting all my cards on one person, especially like whether it's left or right. I just think, like even Trump, like I still, I don't know. I'm not completely sold. It's like I don't know if you're, biblical or spiritual or anything. It just goes back to that whole thing of false gods, right? There's no human or person that's gonna, change our lives directly, especially if there's a bit of green for them in the background, some kickbacks. Yeah, must be good to be a
well,
politician.
so this or the lockdown or whatever it was, it's sparked a little bit of biblical stuff, and I've started being a little bit curious of the religion. Not that I've really looked into it or anything, but it's just, if anyone's got something to say, I'll sort of start listening.
hmm
Really don't
this feels
understand.
spiritual. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it just it feels like good old Star Wars, right? The fight between good and evil. And why do you think that throughout human history, a majority of our history has involved some sort of war or, conflict, um, that kind of thing?
Before the internet, when all this technology, people would actually go out and do stuff. There was a sense of community, whereas if they didn't have that, the community side of things, then I think it would just crumble everything. So people used to walk and probably horse to go do a dance night, and that would be often. Nowadays, you can just roll up in your car, a quick trip, and you're there.
Mm-hmm.
So just technology in general has sort of slumped a lot of people down, and this is why a lot of relationship problems are arising the last 40, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
Just all the improvements in life making it a little bit too easy.
I think having these deeper conversations with people, that's why I like having you on, Spring Cannon. We've had multiple conversations. With each added conversation that we have, we kind of get to know each other a bit more. There's a few more layers, and it's past sort of like the small talk that you normally get with complete strangers or even like close friends and family, right? How was your day? What did you do? It's like small talk. There's no depth. And I like this sort of format where it's sort of like us talking deeper than that. And I feel like, I don't know, I just get a few more tools out of it. I become less naive as well. More cynical, obviously. But Supreme is in their chat saying, agree, too many Americans making Trump out to be a messiah. That's what I was trying to say there. Yeah, it's like that whole messiah or God complex, right? Easy trap to fall into, adds Supreme, considering how scummy his opposition is. Yeah. Yeah, Biden, who can't string a word together. But apparently, Biden is showing empathy because he's been calling him Donald. So here you go. He's not a complete robot. He remembered the 2 syllables and put it together. But oh, thank you for confirming that the audio is a lot better. Supreme adds, media crafted a narrative for decades, and now social media has thrown gasoline on the fire. What about you there, Matt? What are you seeing in the media here is difficult, shall I say, in New Zealand, because I don't know if you know, but the 6 o'clock news is no longer. Our news was owned by Warner. Okay, and they decided no more news. So if you're watching TV now, you get like a little ticker tape of what's been happening, but you don't actually get presenters saying the stories. So that's the kind of media that we're getting, and obviously a lot of newspapers, online newspapers, have paywalls and such. So you're not really getting like free news as such. I mean, it's the value of news is kind of tells it all, really. I've been visiting, not a sponsor, but I've been visiting a website called ground.news, and I find that a little bit less biased because it actually tells you whether it's center, left, right coverage, that kind of thing. So, but what I'm asking is, are you even keeping up with Australian news, or are you just kind of out there in the golf course now?
Well, it's become a thing of TikTok, Instagram, and word of mouth.
Yeah.
That's my source of news.
Yeah, well,
I don't even have the TV hook.
the only reason I knew about the Trump failed assassination is actually our beloved MikeInTheNight.org Mike Martins posted a video about it, and I saw it on Discord, and that was the first time I was like, oh, something's happening here. So that was my sort of discovery of that news article.
And best part about Instagram in particular, or even a chat group, Diana here has organised it. Just the memes people come out with, and as soon as a meme pops up of something, it's like, oh, what's going on here? So then other memes, and then the videos start. So it's become a thing where memes start something.
Yeah.
And it's good. Rather than it being a news source.
It's going back to nature, the chatter of birds, right? A lion is coming. Tweet, 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 tweet. That's kind of what we're doing. We don't really need the middlemen telling us what's happening because there's enough of us to kind of curate or really know what's happening, right?
Yes, as long as there's somewhat of a free speech part about it.
Yeah.
If they're going to censor the absolute bejesus out of everything, then it'd be like, is it North Korea? Where they don't get any coverage of anything.
Yeah, I kind of secretly fear that that's what's gonna happen in New Zealand. Supreme's in there saying it's kind of a good thing that the Kiwi news is getting cut back because it suggests nobody is watching it anymore. Exactly that, right? But we still need to know what's going on, though. That's the kind of flip side of it. So, yeah. What's happening in Australia economically with jobs? Is it a zombie? Is it a zombie nation right now?
No, it seems fairly active, although they have introduced a second property tax.
Oh, fun. A second.
I was talking to someone at work. I think it's a second property.
A second property
Anyway,
tax for the same property? So it's like a tax on a tax?
I think it's if you own a
if you
second
own
property.
Okay. I only asked that because in the gig wise, I have to say, because I've been doing music for several decades now, it's getting real tough getting licenses right now if you're wanting to get like like book a show on a council owned venue. They've got these new yearly licenses that you have to pay for per venue and all this and that. There's like all these new fees, and as small businesses or stallholders, it's actually really difficult because you try and tell them, well, actually, everyone's struggling. No one's really buying much, yet you're asking us to pay more to hire this venue. They're really getting us from all angles, though, aren't they? You can't be an entrepreneur as such. Even if you are, you get taxed to death. Property tax, water, everything, right? How much
Everything.
how much of your income, and I'll disclose mine if you want, how much of your income, percentage-wise, that is, goes towards bills out of curiosity? Because I feel like mine is like, I don't know, 90% goes to bills.
Well, rent is per month is a quarter of my wage,
That's just rent too, right?
which I rent. Yeah.
Mm.
But I guess any if people own, then they have all these extra costs on top. I don't know how they do it, but
Yeah. I can
I'm
tell you how I do it.
comfortably.
We start eating at other family members' homes, like literally. Cut back on food. Try that for a few days.
Yeah. Oh, I actually remember at Costco, and they have the cafeteria, and they do really cheap food.
Oh,
It's
I had my
obviously
first Costco
take-
experience last week and got a $2 sausage. I was like, what? And you get a drink. Yeah.
Yes. It's-
Fun.
There's always people there, and there's a nice range they've got going there at the moment.
Not to be a sponsor of that shop, but I have to say though, it's kind of like not everything is a deal, because I always like have my supermarket app and check how many dollars per liter or whatever like that. It's not always cheaper there at Costco, I have to say. Sometimes it is.
It's I get premium unleaded,
Ah.
and it works out the same price as normal unleaded elsewhere. That's where I save the most.
Right.
But then actually shopping inside, no, it's too expensive. But then the cafeteria is where you make up.
Yeah, right. They got to have loss leaders to kind of get people in the door, that kind of thing.
Yes. And I'm
Mhm.
about 2 kilometers from there, my work.
Mhm.
So I occasionally after work.
That's cool, man. So, other than like your personal, you doing well professionally, personally right now?
Yeah, I'm fine. Everything organized. But I intentionally do it. Some people, or a lot of people, they just try to keep up with the Joneses, and it doesn't work
Yeah.
out in the end.
No. It's
It's-
like the Apple loop,
it's
right?
the same.
I'm a fan of Apple products, but the new one comes out, I feel like the software updates with that too, by the way, kind of, makes the technology obsolete after a few years. It's just like it's a dog chasing a pony's tail.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I might sound like a hypocrite because I've got lots of technology behind me, but you got to remind yourself I've been doing this music thing for a long time, and that's where my gig income has been, and it's like 20 years in the making. But I have slowed down my consumerism now because couple of reasons. One, I can't even afford food. But two, yeah, you can't just keep up with the Joneses all the time and trying to like even the YouTube game that I'm doing right now, right? So I'll post a video about my music studio, right? And it gets thousands of views like in a day. Like I think I posted one and in one day it was like 4,000 views. And then I post something deep and meaningful and actually means something to me and my community, like this podcast that we're having now, and it might get like, I don't know, 20 views. And I feel like you're feeding the algorithm like what it wants, and it's hard to keep up with that, right? The influencer game, the attention economy.
Yes.
And you start curating, most people start curating their content based on what's landing. So, and I try and get in that trap too as a YouTuber, right? Like I post, oh, maybe I should post more gear views or more music city stuff. It's like, but that's not what kind of, I don't know, gives value. But anyways, I'm ranting. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I do artwork in my spare time.
I didn't know that about you. That's cool.
A few years ago, I decided to start posting stuff on Instagram.
Yep.
Initially, I thought I'd try to make something of it, but it never happened. So I don't intend to get anything out of it now. I will post stuff, but I have no expectation of anything of it now, which is fine for me.
I have
But then it's a little bit.
I have a cousin,
go on.
and I have a cousin overseas, and he was saying that he's really into DJing, and he'll start posting mixes on Facebook or whatever. But same thing, man. He gets like copyright strikes, and I don't know. It's not what the algorithm wants to promote, so he kind of lost his steam. Same with the podcast thing here, man. Like I feel like the algorithm's never really going to pick this up, but I do have really nice conversations with people around the world. And it's not about trying to impress others, right? It's trying to, I don't know, enlighten, empower me in my own life. With what people share and what people say, what's happening in other parts of the world, and hearing it from real people too, right? So I know.
The community side of it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Matt, it's great. It's great to hear that you're doing well, and getting a few rounds of golf in between as well. Because, like I say, it's all pleasure and purpose in life. Those are the two things that add value. Yeah. Anything else?
I was just going to add to the Trump situation.
Yeah, please.
Now, back in, I think it was 99, Tasmania had the Port Arthur massacre.
Right.
Now, and strangely enough, I know of somebody that knows somebody that was on the police force at that time. And they had that person in the sights many minutes before he started. They knew of the guy, what he was going to do. They could have taken action, and the order was to stand down. It's coming from someone that was on the ground. As well as the Sydney siege, was that 4 or 5 years ago? There was a Middle Eastern person that beheaded somebody in the Lint Cafe.
Oh, no.
Now, there was 60 Minutes did a segment on it, and they interviewed the person that sniped him. And same thing, he could have sniped him before any of that happened. And he was told to stand down, which plays into the same thing that happened with Trump. The guy up on the roof had, what was it, 3 minutes?
I think it was less than a minute and 8 rounds, 6 to 8 rounds, from what I heard on like InfoWars and stuff.
Well, in an adrenaline situation, it feels a lot longer. So, yeah, it's the same thing. So this is why it's best to stand back and assess everything and make sense of it before making an opinion about it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, because it's kind of tempting to kind of start adding to the hype and to to the chatter. But you're right. We kind of need to kind of kick back a little bit, assess the facts as much as possible, if that's even possible. Testimonials is a strong thing, I find. But also video. Hopefully, some actual video will come out. But yeah, we do need to kind of give it a day or two at least to kind of sit, right, rather than pounce. Yeah. I mean, the world's gone completely mad, to be honest. That's my opinion. And it reminds me of like why dogs start going insane. Like when they start going insane, they just kind of, I don't know, exhibit weird behaviors and things like that. I think, and people are no different, right? When the world's so nutty, and maybe you're getting fed one picture, or yeah, people start doing crazy stuff. I just got to remind people that this is by design to divide us and scare us and make us start acting like animals, essentially.
That situation, was it Gaza or Palestine, whatever it was, how the rumor started everything, where they said, oh, babies have been beheaded.
Yeah.
And it turned out nothing of the sort.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the play of a movie called Wag the Dog. If anyone's not seen that, go and watch it, because that's exactly what they do. They make up false stories to get stuff going, like the BLM stuff. That was all set up, which surprisingly nobody had an uproar when Derek Chauvin, the cop, was released 3 or 4 months after that initial happened, and he just got released on good behavior. Now, for someone who has supposedly started the massive riots in the USA and some other parts of the world, he should have been publicly hung if that was a legit situation. But nobody does that anymore, do they?
It's interesting you mentioned that movie, Wag the Dog, and I'm just reading about it. So, a brief description. In the movie's from 1997. Shortly before an election, a spin doctor and Hollywood producer join efforts to fabricate a war in order to cover up a presidential sex scandal. Yeah, it's kind of that whole thing. Look over there. Nothing's happening here. Look over there. And that's why I'm a little bit hesitant and a little bit cynical with, as Supreme said in the chat there, of putting so much faith in a messiah, and it's just, in the end, they're just a person, probably with different goals too. Someone who's just trying to put food on the table, right? Power can mean different things to people. It could be influence, it could be money, it could be sex, it could be this, that, right? And I don't believe that Trump really is for the everyday person struggling to find food or pay for rent. I just don't believe it. I feel there's a disconnect. What do you think?
I was just thinking back to when he was forcing Congress to consider building that wall, and now it's all open.
Yeah.
Just walk on through the lobbies.
I love that thing I heard about that. Build the wall. And it's like, you realize we have airplanes, right?
Yeah, or ladders. People climb that thing.
That's a meme
That's
there.
just really fun.
Hey, with your art, have you considered making memes?
What was that?
Your art thing you were mentioning, getting into that. Have you considered making memes?
I've done one back when the lockdown started. I think there's enough memes going on that I don't have to add to it. Because then I got to find an avenue where it's out there, but I don't think it's for me.
Yeah. Okay. going back to your art. So we're talking earlier with author Jodie Shelley, and she's actually a sort of a life coach and telling us about how, having a day job or something like that, it's really actually valuable to have something creative because it's something relaxing and something good to do, adds value to life. Do you find that exploring your creative side is kind of helping you a bit more with digesting what's happening in the world? Or yeah, tell us more about that.
I think it is multiple parts of a personality that helps. It's not just one thing, because I see some people, they're very analytical, and other parts of their life, it's like, what's going on with you? And that doesn't make sense. So if you can focus on multiple aspects of life or yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be a lot better than just, it's like, let's say on the golf courses, I've worked or had beginner people come in just because they need the money and they're well known for something and that's all they've done, and they come in and they're not very well rounded and it's very awkward because
Yeah.
they haven't focused on anything other than that thing.
Yeah,
So other
absolutely.
things play into.
Yeah. That's good to know. Good to know. Well, Matt, it's been a good half hour with you actually. How's that feel? Did you realize
That's very quick.
time flies when you're talking to your mates. Matthew, you're a friend of the podcast, so it's also, I feel. Did you hear about my mate Monica at my old workplace?
No.
Okay, you probably haven't been on my channel. So, I used to work in a private sector, and we were an operational center. So, grueling hours. You're talking 12-hour shifts plus. Anyways, I had a coworker who sat very close to me called Monica. She was doing those crazy hours, a lot of them evening shifts and stuff. And on top of that, she was also studying as well. And full-time student,
Damn.
full-time. Yeah, exactly right. And I've
That's
had a few chats with her because I live, proximity-wise, not live. Sorry, I sat very close to her, and she was reaching out to me a little bit like, hey, go for coffee and things like that. And I kind of read it wrong, right? Because I'm, married and things like that. And I was like, oh, I don't know, man. Like, ooh. But also I realized that she was desperately reaching out for a tribe because unfortunately, recently, she was found dead. Um, and it was suspected suicide as well. So, I just, and I've been talking to everyone in my tribe now. I'm like, oh, like I knew the warnings, I saw the warning signs, right? And I think that, like, say if you fall into a depression or things like that, because it's easy to do that with the crazy world that we live in. Um, and it's easy to feel isolated. So maybe like friends and family are starting to like disown. And I've certainly had that too. Like I've had close friends of mine that I've known for decades listen to my podcast and they're like, "Oh, too political," like, and then it's like start radio silencing me, and I'm like, "Oh, no." You probably get that too. Um, but it's hard to kind of digest it on your own, and this is what I value about chatting to you, and it's also the check-ins as well. It's that um accountability, going, "Hey, you doing all right? You doing all right, bud?" Getting a couple of men behind you. What do you think? I mean, hopefully you don't mind me calling you every now and then, going, "Hey, mate, how's it going? You doing all right?"
Yes, and it comes back to that community part of just feeling like you somewhat belong.
Yeah, or seen, right? Like, "Hey, I see you."
Yes, and it doesn't have to be within a person directly. You can be doing something, and even just the feedback from doing something, and it's a positive feedback.
Yeah.
Just feeling like you're able to do something as like a competent thing.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, I got myself a new job. I work in disabilities now, so I'm working with vulnerable people with either mental or physical disabilities. Good thing about my new job is they're actually training me now. Like I've got a certificate in trauma-induced care, and all sorts of funny modules that I've completed recently. And I'm not saying I'm an expert now. No way. I'm still like entry level, but I am enjoying the role though. I feel like, I've always cared about people, and what I'm saying is seeing how the families struggle and having that help with their disabled child or whatever the case, just giving them that relief of being able to breathe. I feel it's the same thing too. Like, I might have a lot on my plate and my mind's going whir, 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 like this. And then having a chat with Matthew or Supreme earlier or anyone else, really as part of this community, there is a release, eh? You're like, everything's going to be all right, even though the world's crazy. What do you reckon?
Yes, well, I've noted many times through reading books or people's experience helping people all the time, and what they forget to do is to have it come the other way as well. Whereas if they're always giving, it's like they have their soul depleted, and it doesn't nourish their own soul. So if you incorporate some of the other side of that, where you go and take, that's where it's going to be really good for you. If it's just buying something to make you feel special, at least.
I listened. I heard recently that, it's so hard. It's so easy to fall into the consumerist sort of loop because we've been ingrained in that. That's been our ingrained in our psyche for so long. But it really is true that no matter what you buy, like even if you buy something, a physical thing, might give you temporary pleasure, and then you're off to find the new shiny thing. But it's so this loop. It's just this loop. But for me, anyways, I'm talking for myself. When I give a part of myself, so whether it's like giving my time to talk to people on a podcast, which I do regularly, or giving my giving my all and supporting someone that's disabled, giving a part of me and seeing that other person saying, "Hey, I see you." I don't know. It's just so much better than buying the next iPhone. You get
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to say, Tommy's in the chat room, so I see you, chat room. Speaking of seeing people, I think I need to get you to call in because you're just firing up the chat, which is good. But let me see if I can point out a couple of things you mentioned. In 2019, a co-worker pharmacist told me that 95% of people he knew work in a sector not associated with their degree. So that means like university, college. Yeah, I feel
That's
that
very
too.
common.
I've got a degree in audio engineering, and now I'm in this disability sector. Like, so yeah, that makes sense. Matt?
That's very big in America.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I'll get Matthew to call in for the last 10 minutes or so. Done a 2-hour show. It's been amazing. Yeah, Tommy. Check us out at youtube.com at Kiwiradio.nz. So youtube.com at Kiwiradio.nz. If you want to join in there, Matt.
His fingers buzzing away. I can see it.
Yeah, well, you're there now. No, I mean, good to have the check-in. So you're doing good. Friend of the podcast, I'm glad I can reach out to you and just say, hey, buddy, you doing all right? That's all it takes. And sometimes we get busy, so it might not be a good time. But in the case of now, though, we've spoken for a good 38 minutes, so it's been a good catch up, and I'm very glad to hear from you there, Matt.
Yes, it's been good. Yeah, just to have a quick chat.
Yeah, man. Well, you stay cool over there in Australia, and yeah, keep in touch, okay?
Sure, no worries.
All right, take care. Bye. That is Matthew there with a friend of the podcast. If you're in New Zealand, 0988985555. Let's get this party started while someone recommended this last week, actually, a bit of flow rider. Not really my, genre that I normally play, but you got to expand your horizons sometimes. So let's, if it'll let me play that, maybe not. No, it's not going to let me play. Okay, well, that's fine. Open lines 09889855. That's 09889855. I might take one final call if that's all right. And then there'll be time for Betty Booties. 09889855 if you want to call in future. Let's get this party started. Better pick up if you want to be on the show. All right, I think we've missed the boat there. Sorry, Tommy, I did try and call you. But it's good to have you in the chat room. We want to say thank you to everybody joining us today. It's been a wonderful 2-hour show. I will be here again, same time, same channel. If you want to check us out next week, and we'll have replays and everything. Want to say thank you to JodyShelleyWrites.com, who was part of the first part of this show. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody. It means so much to me to have you there in the chat room and calling in, and yeah, it's just good people out there. There really is good people out there. All right, everybody. We'll take care. I will be signing off now to Booty Bye Byes and 99 Eyes. And yeah, let's do this again sometime. You're listening to Kiwiradio.nz. That's Kiwiradio.nz. Head over to our website for some cool tunes and discussions 24/7 at Kiwiradio.nz. And wishing you all the best. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'm signing off now. Have a good one. Bye.